rise together, stronger than ever now. We rise up now.
Our voices matter, the chains we shatter now.
We rise up now. I'm mad, you mad, we matter now. I'm coming, we're coming, the truth comes out. We found it, our voices coming out. Unbounded, we claim our freedom now. Here we go. They wrote the story, we changed the letters now. We rise up now.
Honor those before me, on wings of glory now.
We rise up now. I'm mad, you mad, we matter now. Ooh, I'm coming, we're coming, the truth comes out. We found it, our voices coming out.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the kingdom. I was gonna turn it off, but I can't. Welcome. Unbounded, we claim our freedom now. All right, I'll save more for the end. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the kingdom. I am so excited and so honored to have you all here, as I am every single week, with just the joy of this community coming together. So many of us from all over the world, and I see you all jamming to our song. And you all can have the song. It's in your inbox. So remember, if you need the song, it's in your inbox. Those of you who want it. If anybody has the link, you can post it in the chat box for everybody, because that's the song that we all wrote together. And so I want to welcome you today to the kingdom on this incredible Sunday that we get to spend here together. And I want you to type into the chat box where you're chiming in from. And if you're brand new to the kingdom today, I just want you to type in that you're new. Say, this is my first time. And if you say this is my first time, you'll see our community welcoming you in. And I see you, Shauna and Alton and Magdalena and Liz and Megan and Claire and Arin and Mom, hello, who's in Arizona today. Beth, so many of you here. Carrie, always, hello, Emily. It's so beautiful to be with you all today. And as always, we always start off by just claiming and naming our values here of what we believe in. Hi, Anna, I see you here. Hello. I love our community that is just growing and growing. And I think just today I want to slow down on these values a little bit. We've been speeding through them because we're all here, so many times. Hi, Tim. Hi, Claire. And I just want us to really anchor into how important these are to feel, not just in the work that we're doing here, but also in our actual lives. Like these values, if we bring these beliefs and these values into our lives, how much the world would change and how different of a world we might all be living in together. And so here at the kingdom, we believe that all beliefs are welcome here. And hello, Carmela, first time live from Italy. Welcome. Hello, amazing. Welcome, first timers. All beliefs are welcome. And so we know that there are many different traditions and many different spiritual practices, and we know that our beliefs even evolve over time. And so how do we welcome in all beliefs? And the second point being all biologies. How do we welcome in everybody, no matter what their identity is? And I don't even really like the words no matter what. It's just, how do we welcome in all people of all different biologies and all identities? And we believe here in the power of music to open our hearts and our minds. So you'll always see some kind of a musical accompaniment to what we're doing here in the kingdom. And whenever you're going through a moment in your life, you can just think back to the big moments in your life. And usually they're accompanied by some kind of a soundtrack, right? So the songs that you were singing, or the mantras that you were singing, or whatever you were listening to at that time, or you can listen to a song and it takes you back to an emotional moment that was maybe at a funeral or at a wedding, or these important moments in our lives are really ushered in through the spirit of music. And we believe here at the kingdom that wisdom can come from many places. So many places, not just a place like the Bible or a spiritual text, but from all of us, each and every one of us. And you all bring so much wisdom every week in the chat box, and I'm super grateful for that. We also believe in an expanded definition of self. Those of you who are in the liberation experience are very familiar with this now, this concept of mui. Mui being me plus we equals mui. And it's not just you in this individual body, and it's not just about thinking about the people outside of yourself. Because if we think too much about the people outside of ourselves, what happens? We lose ourselves in the process. But if we think too much just about our own selves, then we lose our connection to all of nature and all of life. I just watched with Christy, who's sitting behind me right now, I just watched with Christy, my octopus teacher last night on Netflix. I don't know if anybody has seen that movie. I know, Tim, you said it was one of your favorites. It was just so incredible. The connection that we can have when we allow ourselves to expand beyond our definition of self. And here at the kingdom, we don't just honor or tolerate each other's differences, but we know that we are stronger because of those differences. We're stronger when we come together, and that's the words in our Unbounded. We rise together stronger than ever now. We rise up now. Those words that we created together. We know that we're stronger when we band together. And ultimately, we rise together. And so I thank you all for coming today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And I wanted to invite you all to do something this week for next week, okay? Just so we can see how this happens. So we're very, very close to getting, you see 1,000 people on here. We're very close. We're super close. And I believe that if each of us invite a friend or someone we love to come join the Kingdom Live next week, then we might hit that 1,000 mark. So let's see how we can spread this love far and wide. So I want you, every single person, when you're done today, when we're done with this session, invite someone to come log in. You can just send them to my website, justinmichaelwilliams.com/thekingdom. I'm actually gonna put the link in the chat box for you all. Here's the link. And when you send somebody to that link, they register for themselves and they can come on and enjoy this together, because I think we can get there to 1,000 in 15 sessions, y'all. This is amazing. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And just for those of you who are new to know how this works, we always begin with a poem or music or art, which we started with Unbounded today. We have a prayer. Always, I lead us in a prayer. And then you have a moment to do your personal prayer, which is about 60 seconds of silence for you to welcome in your own intention and your own prayer to this practice, whether it's a religious prayer or something you just want to set for yourself for this day or the week to come. And then we jump into the main teaching, a practice to really help us understand how this teaching lives in our lives, a golden nugget, which you'll see a little bit later, and a power action to help you take this inspiration and move it forward into action in our lives. So I just wanted to take a little more time, a little more spaciousness to go through this before we begin today, just to center us back in the truth of who we are. With these elections and with everything going on in the world today, if we can keep coming back to these values, you can use them everywhere, then we find a new way to live and a new way to be. So let's begin our session now with our prayer. And give yourself permission to just bring your full attention here today. This is your gift to you. So hands over the heart, one hand over the other, just uniting both sides of the body, the masculine, the feminine, the sun and the moon, the right and the left, all parts of you, centered in the heart, rooted in the heart, rooted in love. And let's pray. God, Spirit, universe, all that is, all that ever has been, all that ever will be, we thank you. Thank you for giving us the capacity to hold and deal with our anxiety and our stress. Thank you for giving us the capacity and the resilience to get through the challenges in our lives, knowing that we cannot be stopped when we're connected to you, when we're connected to our ancestors, when we remember that we are not alone. We are together. We rise together. Thank you for bringing us here to be a beacon of light, hundreds of us from all over the world, to be beacons of light, spreading the messages of love and hope and possibility into the corners of the world that need it most and that only we can reach. Thank you for the blessing and the gift of this life. Thank you for using our voices and my voice and each and every one of our voices to rise up and lift up these messages of hope and empowerment and possibility that really matter so much in this time. Thank you for the health and vibrancy that we're allowed to bring here to this moment, for our attention, for our senses, for the fact that we can even be here as we visit this earth, preparing and perceiving ourselves for the highest version of our manifestation. This is your moment now for your personal prayer, so I'll be silent for a moment and just welcome in now your personal intention or prayer for today's session. God, Spirit, universe, all that is, all that ever has been, all that ever will be, we thank you. May all the words that are used today help inspire us to live into the best and fullness of who we are. And we thank you again for bringing us together here today at the Kingdom. So it is. Ashe, Aho, Salam, Amen, Satnam, Shalom. Amen. Thank you. So here we are. Isn't it amazing how grounding that can be? So welcome back. Welcome to yourself. Welcome home. Let's begin. So today's practice, and for those of you who are in the Liberation Experience, I'm just letting you know you're going to have a preview of what's coming tomorrow in our session in the Liberation Experience. Because today, as I was preparing for the Liberation Experience this past week, I thought, you know what, this is too important to hold in this closed group. So let's expand and extend this out to everyone in the world who needs it. And that is, today, we are talking about the power of privilege and how to uncover your hidden prejudices and use a special test that we're going to actually go through together today to find out something that's called your privilege score. Your privilege score. And everybody has one, and we're going to all get into our individual privilege scores together. So this is going to be an interactive session. So I'll tell you right now, wherever you are, go grab a little notebook or a piece of paper or a pen or something. If you can write on your phone if you want as well, but you'll need, for the practice we're going to do today, something to write with, okay? And it doesn't need to be anything special. It could be the back of an envelope, anything. Just something to kind of scratch right with. And I also just want to check that the audio levels are okay for you all today. So just let me know if everything is all right for you today. So let's talk about the power of privilege. And I'm gonna get into this in a way that you might not expect. So I want to read several quotes to you, okay? And talking about privilege has so much to do. Oftentimes we don't see this connection that we make, but it has so much to do with giving and receiving. And oftentimes we don't think about it that way. We think about, oh, white privilege and this and that and whatever, but really it has to do with this law of giving and receiving. And so I want to read some quotes to you. The first one is, You have not lived today until you have done something for someone who can never repay you. And this is a quote from John Bunyan, who was an English writer and priest from the 1600s, okay? So just feel that for a moment, okay? You have not lived today until you have done something for someone who can never repay you. I just love that. Let all of these quotes that I'm going to read right now land in your heart, and they're going to set us up for something really special today. Check this one out. This next one is by Ralph Waldo Emerson, who I found out when I was researching actually in his time just went by Waldo. So we always use all three of his names. He goes by Waldo, which gives a whole different vibe to me. And Ralph Waldo Emerson is an 1800s writer and philosopher, 19th century. And I love this quote. The purpose of life is not just to be happy. It is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well. I love this. I love this so much because this gives us such a great picture of oftentimes when we're thinking about our life purpose and what we do, to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, and to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well. Let's continue. Here's a great one. Let this one land. This is from the Buddha. Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle. I have a candle with me here right now. Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. So think about this, right? Like we have this candle. I'm trying not to blow it out as I'm breathing all on it. We have these candles and we think of our lives, we sometimes think of ourselves as the flame, right? We think of ourselves as the flame. And what happens is when we pass this flame on, you have to remember that your flame does not diminish, right? And so as we think of ourselves as the flame of the candle, instead of just the wick, right? If you give away some of the wick, it does shorten, not the wick, the wax. If you think of yourself as the wax, then it does. If you gave some of this away, it would shorten your lifespan, right? It would shorten your capacity. But if you think of yourself as the flame, that of transformation, that which can ignite a spark, that which gives death and rebirth and all these things that we do with the fire element, then as we pass along our light and our happiness to others, it's taking nothing away from us. And so I love this quote from the Buddha about thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle. And that's what each of us are doing one by one here, okay? Let's continue. This is one from the Bible, from Matthew 7:12. And this is known actually as the Golden Rule. And it says, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Now, we've all heard this, right? So many times. And what's really interesting is why this is called the Golden Rule is because across all the religions, this is one tenet that is like consistent between every religion. I did some research and it's in ancient Egypt, in Christianity, in Buddhism, in Hinduism, in Judaism, in Taoism. And then actually I read this article that 143 leaders from the world's major faiths got together and agreed on this tenet. And we all speak about it in different ways, that you do unto others as you wish for them to do unto you. And even you don't even have to be like religious to get this. Most every ethical tradition in the world follows one of these, which is why it's considered the Golden Rule, because it's one of the things that crosses all of us, regardless of what we believe, which is why I wanted to bring this in today. And so a belief in God or whatever it is isn't even required to endorse or live this tenet of do unto others as you would have others do unto you. And so I want to break this down because I remember when I was a little kid, I just thought that this meant like, be nice to people, right? Like, okay, as long as you're being nice, like everything is fine. And what you want to think about this a little bit differently. There's 3 ways that you can read this quote in particular. So the first one is, I think, the one that most of us think of, which is treat others as you would like to be treated. right? So that's the first way that we think about this. And then the second way that some of us think about, if we have like a more of a negative view of it, but it also applies, is do not treat others in ways that you would not like to be treated, right? And then finally, this one is really about the intention around things, is what you wish upon others, you wish upon yourself. So this is big, right? Because when we think about it as just being nice to people, it actually really falls short, because there is this sense of reciprocity that this golden rule has. Like, what you do unto others will be done unto you. And we think about the law of receiving, we know through energetic and metaphysics and all the thing that the law of receiving actually gets activated by the law of giving. Right? So we give and we receive. And there's this reciprocal relationship between us and everyone else, between how we treat others, between how we intend to treat others, between how we don't want to treat others, and then how we, in turn, end up being treated. Excuse a little doggy outside right now, my neighbor's dog. So that's just an important way to think about it. Now, what does this have to do with privilege? Okay, you might be thinking. Well, some of you probably already get it, but I want to cover first, okay? Oftentimes when we're talking about privilege, especially in 2020, we often just say privilege and we immediately think white privilege, right? Like, and then it kind of goes into this race-based thing. But I want to describe to you that there are other types of privilege, right? Like, white privilege isn't the only type of privilege. And in fact, we are all privileged. All of us here, if you were here on The Kingdom watching this right now, I guarantee you that you have some level of privilege. And we're going to talk about this today because when we think about our privilege and what we have and what we can do with it, we can see not only how that activates greater good in others, but how that then turns around and activates the law of receiving so that we might be able to step more into the fullness of who we are. And going back to these quotes, right? Like, how do we live a life of meaning and purpose? It has a lot to do with this concept of privilege, of having, right? And then of experiencing and giving and getting, and this give and take of this relationship that we all have with one another. And that's why I wanted to make sure in the beginning I really focused on our we believe statements, because here at the Kingdom, right, we're believing that we're all connected. We're believing that we rise together. So what does that mean? That means that each of us and the privileges that we hold and the things that we do, we know and we believe here in this community that they're all affecting one another. We are all affecting one another. Are you all following me right now? And so this conversation about privilege is going to be a little different than you might expect, especially in the social justice context that we're in right now. So let's jump in. I love this quote so much that I put it in my book, Stay Woke. And this is a quote by my brother Darnell L. Moore, and he wrote several incredible books. He has one of his most, his first book was called No Ashes in the Fire. That's amazing. And he said this quote to me when I interviewed him on the podcast. He said, if we can only name the feet that are situated on our necks, but fail to name and recognize the ways our feet are situated on someone else's neck, excuse that typo, we will never, ever be free. I'm going to say that again. Feel that and how this relates to privilege, giving, receiving, serving, all the quotes we just heard, lighting each other's lights, having your life matter, giving to someone who can never give in return. Listen, if you can only name the feet that are situated on our necks, but fail to name and recognize the ways our own feet are situated on someone else's neck, we will never, ever be free. It's so easy to point the finger, right? These people are oppressing us, these people are doing this, but how might we be doing this to others ourselves? And how is that affecting the world? All of us have it. This is shadow work, right? This is tracking your shadow and understanding, okay, I'm a good person. I believe in faith. I believe in love. I believe in hope. I believe in quality. And still, my feet might be on someone else's neck without me even realizing it. Through my privilege, through my actions, through my thoughts, and through how I'm treating others. And so, yeah, y'all are already in it. And those of you who are new to the community, remember, we throw our hands up, the little hands up emoji. If I say something that makes you want to say this, these are like your little amen hands. And if you don't have the hands up emoji, remember, you can always just throw in a little smiley face if you're on your computer or something. And that will help us see and just exchange anytime comes up and keep the energy flowing together. So I see you, Jen and Liz and Emily and Melanie and Mary Teresa. Beautiful, beautiful. So when we're talking about this, right, we're not just talking about the ways in our lives that we are like actively showing up to oppress someone or like exert our privilege in some way. That is one way, obviously, but we want to go deeper than that today in our community. I want you to think about, who are you in the secret spaces of your life? When no one's watching, when no one can hear, and the most secret space of all is in your own mind, right? So I remember just this past week, I learned a new gender identity. There's someone who's in one of my programs who filled out their gender form, and they said that their gender identity was Faye gender, F-A-Y-E gender. And I never heard of this before. But I knew right away that like a fae, if anybody's watched like Lord of the Rings or Maleficent or read any books that like this, like fae has to do with fairies, right? Like being a fairy. And so I was like, fae gender. And like right away, I remember like watching what happened in my mind, thinking and watching what was happening with the people that I was talking to, going, am I thinking this is too much? Am I thinking this is ridiculous? Am I thinking this is okay? Am I thinking this is interesting? And the truth is, for me, I actually like, everybody knows I'm all into these kind of mystical things. So I was like, ooh, and I start like researching and looking. But I was feeling into the back of my mind where there was a part of me that even was like, well, does that mean you could be like hobbit gender? Or you could be, you know, whatever gender? And I went, hold on. Like, who am I? Who am I in the secret space of my life, of my mind, and with my close friends and with the people around me that I know aren't going to tell anybody? Who am I to be teaching a program like the Liberation Experience and have any moment where I'm questioning whether I can honor the way someone else wants to present their gender? Because if I have the privilege of being somebody who identifies as gender normative, right, of heterosexual and a man and all these different things, like how do I said I was heterosexual. I'm not heterosexual. That was the wrong word. P.S. Like, I'm like, wait, something came out really weird there. So the heteronormative is the word that I was looking for. And who am I to have any reason to step on this person's neck at all to say anything about how they're choosing to identify? And so you can think about these other ways in your life. I'll think about another thing that I like had said something to Christy, and this is like a joke that, not a joke rather, but something that I think a lot of us do that had happened in my family. So I'm looking at who I am and looking at who I am in the world. And I think back to my uncle when I was like a young kid, young. I was like junior high, and my uncle had gotten this cleaning lady who he never met. It was like a company. And he gets this cleaning lady, and he always, when the cleaning lady left, even though he never met, he don't even know if it's a lady or not, first of all. It was a company that came when he was at work. And he would always say, oh my gosh, Lupe came to clean my house. Christy knows because I was just talking to her about this. Lupe came to clean the house. And we used to laugh, Lupe. Like, by the way, P.S., like I grew up thinking I was half black, half Mexican. So not that gives me an excuse, but like he would say Lupe, right? And so growing up, I would have this thing, and most of my cleaning ladies have been people that were South American. And I had said something the other day to Christy saying, like, Christy was cleaning, and I was like, oh, Christy, you trying to be Lupe? Did I say Lupe? Something like that. Christy's laughing. And I heard myself, right? I heard myself, and I went, oh my gosh. And what did I say to you? I said, that was my last time.
You said that's the last time I'm ever going to say this.
I don't know if you heard Christy right now. I said, that is the last time I'm ever going to say this in my life. Even though I just said it again, sharing it with you. But you get what I'm saying in context. And so I said, who am I sitting here as this privileged person who can have a cleaning lady, to have the nerve to like give this entire culture's thing to this. And I don't really even believe that. So I committed right there in my own shadow. Never saying that again. I will never make a joke like that again. It's not funny. It's just as funny as if somebody said something about, slaves or whatever or this. And so I'm sharing these as true stories because these are even things that I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I want to say this out loud, right? But this is shadow work. That's what the shadow is. It's about who you are in the secret spaces of your life. And this is where, going back to the golden rule and the quote in the Bible, and that's across all religious texts, is not just about, oh, I treat people nicely. No. What are you intending? Who are you? How are you treating people even when they're not present? Even in the secret spaces of your lives. And so this is super, super, super important. Okay? And thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jen. Yeah, and I love that. Kathy said, how about not even using lady as a part of that statement? Right? And so all of it, right? Like we can unpack and do this differently in our lives. And when we do this, when we recognize the ways that our feet were situated on someone else's neck, just like my feet were situated on the whole Latina community, right? With my feet situated there, then we can go, oh my gosh, when we have that awareness, you have that awakening where you don't have to shame yourself. Oh my God, I'm a bad person. I can't believe I did this. You might feel that for a second, but you step in and go, okay, this is where my feet are. Lift it up. And not just lift it up, but now how can I use my privilege to now lift you up? So this is what we're getting into today. This is what we're getting into. And the reason why we have to talk about privilege in this way is because all of us, I don't care if you're black, white, Latina, Amy said it in here as well. We all have this inside of us. We all have this inside of us, okay? And so if anybody's having any trouble, thank you all for helping people in the chat. If anybody's having any trouble, refreshing or closing in and out will usually help, okay? Thank you so much, family, community, for helping Maureen out there. So let us continue. When we talk about privilege, I want you all to think of it from this context. This is probably one of the most important quotes that I have about privilege. And it's that privilege isn't about what you've gone through. It's about what you haven't had to go through. Okay? Hear that. Privilege isn't about what you've gone through. It's about what you haven't had to go through. I'm pausing there. Because when we think about it this way, then we can really understand that most all of us here have some level of privilege. When you think about it, there's a lot of places that you can go, but like in the United States, for example, if there was somebody who's going to say, I'm not privileged, right? Like you could think of someone who might be a black, trans, homeless, sex worker. Like that might be, you might go, okay, I don't have a lot of privilege. But then we think about things like this, like, do we have running water that's clean that we can get? Do we have, like, there's all these levels, right, that we can look at. And we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail together in a moment through a practice we're going to do together. But first, and I'm seeing you guys are all talking to Alonzo from this quote that TD Jakes had, is your strength is within the things you did when no one was looking. Woo! Alonzo, can you send me that in an email or something or a message? Because this is one that I need to include. This is beautiful. So I want to show you all a short video, it's about 3 minutes long, that really helped me get a clear understanding of this concept of privilege. And then you're going to watch it, and then I have a special surprise for what we're going to do next. Listen closely.
Some people are born into families where they have to walk miles just to get water. All I have to do is turn on a faucet. That's privilege.
If you have ever tried to change your speech, if you were embarrassed about your I think privilege is when some people have some things and other people don't have things.
I feel privilege is something that you don't even really have control over.
I think it'd be silly for me to say I don't have a fair amount of privilege, considering like the country I live in and the job I get to do and the college I was allowed to go to.
I suppose being a white male will help me end up somewhere towards the front, but I'll take a few steps back from being gay.
I don't think I'll make it to the front. I think I'll maybe be in the middle. That's just the gut feeling I have.
If your parents work nights and weekends to support your family, take one step back. If you can show affection for your romantic partner in public without fear of ridicule or violence, take one step forward. If you were embarrassed about your clothes or house while growing up, take one step back. If you have ever been diagnosed as having a physical or mental illness or disability, take one step back. If you've ever been bullied or made fun of based on something you can't change, take one step back. If you get time off for your religious holidays, take one step forward. If you came from a supportive family environment, if you can see a doctor whenever you feel the need, if you are able to move through the world without fear of sexual assault, if you took out loans for your education, if there were more than 50 books in your house growing up. So these are your final positions.
I think it felt kind of strange for everyone.
It's a hard thing to discuss or even reflect on.
It was very awkward.
I think when you can represent it so visually like this and so immediately, it definitely takes on a new form.
I think we were like all joking around in the beginning. It was pretty lighthearted, and as soon as the questions started coming in, the mood shifted immediately, and we all it was just silent.
Just looking back and seeing like a bunch of people behind you is not a good feeling.
It's like weird how you want to like hold on to explaining a certain privilege, like, oh, but that's not actually me, because like I had to work really hard for that. So it's weird to like take a step forward when you feel like you're taking a step forward with someone else, but you wear a lot of the baggage of like how those things were hard.
It was like more emotional than I thought it would be.
It reminded me of when they talk about slavery in high school and you feel like angry for a few days, but then you just realize like, this is how it is.
For me, it was kind of frustrating almost to look back and see how much further some people were behind me, and realizing that, you know, a lot of that stuff, no amount of hard work or even legislation can make up that gap.
It's interesting being an Asian American because you're not really sure where you fall on the spectrum of privilege.
I know that for me, one of the reasons I ended up so far back was that there were questions around safety as an African American, as a woman, as a gay woman. There are just so many different ways that I don't feel safe.
I feel like I just learned to be grateful for what you have. You know, we're in such a huge society where it's always complaining about what you don't have.
It just shows you that for some families, like each family, you're meant to do better. My grandparents did good, my parents did good, and I'll do even better.
I do think if you're not like aware of privilege, you should do this exercise, but it's more complicated.
So just hands over the heart right away. And we've done this before, so just notice what you feel. How does it feel watching that? What comes up for you? Giving yourself permission to feel whatever you feel. And then we're going to have everybody type whatever it is that you feel, type that into the chat box. So we can just name the emotions, whatever came up for you. And I think one of the things that I love that I caught actually for the first time, even though I've listened to this a bunch, was when the young white gentleman here said, no amount of hard work can ever make up that gap, right? No amount of hard work can ever make up this gap. And so this is why these conversations about privilege and equity and reaching back and bringing people forward and leveling the playing fields and all these affirmative action, like all these different things really matter, right? Really matter. And we talked a couple sessions ago about the power of justice. And if you haven't seen that episode, please go to the YouTube channel or even to my website where the replay is of that, because it gives us greater context, right? About how all of this works. And I love the words that you're all saying here: humility, gratitude, power, tears, emotional, Yeah, I'll send, I have to find the link, but I will look up the link and send it to you all before we close today. And yeah, I'll find it in in a moment. I have to look it up. Thank you all. I'll give you the link. But if you really just YouTube like privilege test BuzzFeed, you'll find it, to be honest with you. It's right there on YouTube. It has millions of views. And so all of that prepares us for this, is recognizing that most of us are privileged. And I think what we're gonna do today is find out how much. So grab your pen, grab your paper, or your little notes, and we're gonna do something together today. And this power practice today is going to be the privilege test. So I created a version that we can all do together. And there's a version of this actually in my book, Stay Woke, but I've actually edited it to be even more relevant to what we're doing right now. And we're gonna do this all together. So here's how it's gonna work, all right? We're gonna go through this all together. There are 33 questions, 33. And what you're gonna do is I'm gonna read each one. And don't do this in the chat box, just do it on your own at first. And when I read it, I'll either ask you to take a step forward or take a step back. And what you'll do is if you take a step forward, you'll put a +1 on your paper. If you take a step back, you'll put a -1 on your paper. If you have no movement at all, you just put a 0 on your paper. Okay, don't skip it. So you'll have 33 numbers, and the numbers will either be a +1, a -1, or a 0. So your sheet at the end of it should look something like this. I just put a sample, right? You'll have a +1 and then a -1 and a +1 and a 0 and whatever it is for you. And at the end, you'll see how we're gonna bring this all together. All right, so hands over the heart first. And just remember that you might feel a number of emotions come up even as you hear these questions. And remember and know that you have the capacity to feel it. These emotions will come and go. Give yourself permission to go there. And we're all gonna take this little journey together. We're all gonna be on this journey of a little bit of an emotional roller coaster together, but hopefully it won't be too advanced of a roller coaster for y'all with a big drop. So, welcome what arises and let's begin. I'll go through the first 2 slowly and then I'm gonna speed them up a little bit because there are 33, okay? Question number 1. If your parents or guardians worked nights and weekends to support your household, take 1 step back. So your options for this are either 0 or -1 or -1, okay? So you wouldn't put a +1 here. Each one you only have 2 options. This one is a 0, and because I'm telling you to take a step back, you could put a -1. Is this making sense? So here's the question again. If your parents or guardians work nights and weekends to support your household, take 1 step back. So you're gonna put a 0, meaning you stay still, or you take a step back, meaning you put -1. All right, let's go to the next one. I'll go through the first 2 slow. If you can go shopping alone most of the time and be pretty well assured that you will not be followed or harassed, take 1 step forward. So this one, you'll either stay still. If you feel like you would be harassed, you'd stay still and put a 0. Or if you feel like you would not be harassed if you went shopping, you put a +1. So your options for this one are +1 or 0. Are you all getting how this works? It makes sense, right? Okay, so let's continue. I'm gonna go a little more quickly now. If you are cisgender, meaning that your gender identity corresponds to your birth sex, take 1 step forward. Continuing. If you can show affection for your romantic partner in public without fear of ridicule or violence, take 1 step forward. It's a +1 or a 0. If you have ever been diagnosed as having a physical or mental illness or disability, take 1 step back. Next. If the primary language spoken in your household growing up was not English, take one step back. If you have ever tried to change your speech or mannerisms to gain credibility, take one step back. If you can go anywhere in the country and easily find the kinds of hair products you need and/or cosmetics that match your skin color, take one step forward. If you can pass as heterosexual, take one step forward. If you were embarrassed about your clothes or your home while growing up, take one step back. If you are rarely asked to speak for all the people of your racial group, take one step forward. If you can legally marry the person you love, regardless of where you live, take one step forward. When asking to talk to the person in charge, if you're pretty sure that that person would be a person of your race, take one step forward. So that's if you're going to a store or a business and you want to talk to the person in charge. If you're pretty certain you'll be facing a person of your race, take one step forward. If your parents have ever gone through a divorce, take one step back. If you can be late to a meeting without having lateness reflect on your race, take one step forward. If you can be reasonably sure that you would be hired for a job on the basis of your abilities and qualifications, take one step forward. If you would never think twice about calling the police when trouble occurs, take one step forward. I feel that one. If you would never, I already said that one. If you can see a doctor whenever you feel the need, take one step forward. If you feel comfortable being emotionally expressive and open, take one step forward. If you have ever been the only person of your race, gender, socioeconomic status, or sexual orientation in a classroom or workplace setting, take one step back. If you took out loans for your education, take one step back. If you get time off for your religious holidays, take one step forward. If you need legal or medical help and can be sure that your race will not work against you when you need legal or medical help, take one step forward. If you have ever traveled outside of your home country, take one step forward. If you feel confident that your parents would be able to financially help or support you if you were going through a serious monetary hardship, take one step forward. If you have ever been bullied or made fun of because of something that you can't change, take one step back. If there were more than 50 books in your home growing up, take one step forward. If you studied culture or the history of your ancestors in elementary school, take one step forward. If your parents or guardians attended college, take one step forward. If you ever went on a family vacation, take one step forward. There's 3 more. If one of your parents or guardians was ever laid off or unemployed, not by choice, take one step back. Final 2. If you were ever uncomfortable about a joke or statement you overheard related to your race, ethnicity, gender, appearance, or sexual orientation, but felt unsafe to confront the situation, take one step back. And finally, if you have access to clean water, take one step forward. And just place your hands over your heart and just feel for a moment before you do anything, before you try to tally anything up or do anything. Just notice what arises for you as we just now went through all together, all of us from all over the world, this walk, this privilege walk together that you saw in the video. Just notice what you feel, even now before knowing anyone else's score. And take a deep breath in and a breath out. And then take a moment now and let's tally up your score. So you can grab your calculator on your phone. You could skip all the zeros, obviously, and just put in +1, -1, +1, -1, +1, -1. And once you have your scores, I'm going to give you a moment. Type your scores into the chat box. And we'll see what arises. I'm just going to give you about a minute or so right now, and I'll turn the music up for you to just bring your score forward. All right, so here is our scoreboard, and I see you putting your scores in. Here's our scoreboard. So the highest possible score was 22 plus 22. The lowest possible score was -11. My score was -1. That was my score, -1. Christy's score is
14.
+14. So we have so many scores here. We have, Anna wanted me to repeat number 4. I just saw it on here. Anna, I'm sorry. I'll go back and do this for you really quick. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is if you can show affection for your romantic partner in public without fear or ridicule or violence, take a step forward. If you can show affection for your romantic partner in public without fear of ridicule or violence, take one step forward. That was number 4. All right, so look at these scores. Can you all just look, just read it and look. We have 4, 18, 14, 6, 12, 10, 17, 16, 6, 15, 19, 14, 7, 2, 6. All right, 12. I'm surprised I got no negatives in here. So when you guys did the zeros and the -1s, I'm just like double checking. I'm like, am I the only one with a negative score on here today? That's wild. Mine was -1. So this is Alonzo's is 4. So this is really an important practice. Okay, Shauna's -3. I was like, am I alone on the -2? So this is very powerful, you all, to just feel, right? And the point of this is not at all to compare us, but to just help us realize that even in a score where I have a -1 and it seems like, oh my gosh, like -11 was the lowest possible. So we're all in these different levels based upon how we grew up, where we grew up, who we are, okay? And all of that. And so I want to welcome us now into just a short mantra that we'll do together, that we'll just weave in together here. Hands over the heart. Just welcoming all that arises for you. And here's our mantra. I'm sorry. I can do better. May you be happy. May you be free. May we all find peace. I'm sorry. Repeat it in your mind or even out loud. I can do better. May you be happy. May you be free. May we all find peace. One more time, just feeling it for this entire community and everyone in the world. I'm sorry. Really feel that. I'm sorry. I can do better. May you be happy. May you be free. May we all find peace. Beautiful. So as we think today about what we started with, this beautiful intention of do unto others the golden rule as you would like to have them do unto you. And these many other quotes that we went through. You have not lived today until you have done something for someone who can never repay you. The purpose of this life is not to be happy, it is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well. Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle. We look at the ways in which each of us is a candle. Some of us with bigger wicks than others. I mean, bigger wicks and more wax than others, right? And we think about the ways that even as long as we have a flame burning, then we have the power to help ignite other lights. And when we look at privilege this way, I think today you might have been enlightened to some things that you've never even thought about before. It helps us look at the necks that our feet might be situated upon so that we can have more compassion for others and lift up our feet and help each other rise. So as we close today, I'd love for you to just think of your golden nugget. Hand over the heart, close your eyes. This was way more experiential than it was me teaching, so what is your main takeaway today? It doesn't even have to be something that I said, or it can be. But as you feel into your heart, what are you actually taking with you from this session, from this experiential kingdom? And then can just, when you're ready, open your eyes and type it into the chat box. And I see some of you are asking about how to get the We Rise Together t-shirts, and I know so many of you have gotten them. My mom is putting the link in the chat box because she's my best promo person in the world. I just put the link there as well. And I want to see your golden nuggets coming through. The lift of our feet. Love this. Thank you, Melanie. Candles. Colleen. Beautiful. Keep them coming. And as we think about our power action, the action that we take into the world, I have a very simple action for you all today. Very, very simple. Is to take even just a few minutes this week to watch a YouTube video about someone of a culture or a background that you don't know a lot about. You know, one of the biggest ways to create equality and justice is not just by talking about what's wrong, but it's by building bridges and helping people fall in love with one another. And that's what really my aim is to do, is to help us all fall in love with one another and to care like we're doing in this community. And so your action is very simple. Just even if it's a 2-minute video or a 5-minute video or a Netflix movie, watch something about a culture or a community or someone of a background, whether it's a Black trans community or just something you've never digged into. Farm workers, like Anna said, somebody came up to her tree, and just go watch and get perspective. Just like I learned about the octopus last night. So we love you all. I'm just gonna read some of your golden nuggets here as we close. As long as we are a flame burning, we can help light the path for others. I am so privileged and will use that to help others. Beautiful. Share my light. Let's walk each other home. I forgive. Be yourself and let your authentic self, and don't let anyone deter you from this. Claire, I'm so glad you're understanding the golden rule as a new lever, is how we value ourselves that directly relates to how we value others. Yes, because what happens sometimes too is we end up oppressing others in the same way that the system has oppressed us. And so see how that do unto others thing happens there, right? This is why they call it a golden rule in some ways. So the way that we change the oppression of the system is not by continuing to respond to the system in the way that it's oppressed us. It's to actually change what our response is from the first place so that the system has to respond to us differently. This is the rule. This is the law. It's reciprocal. It all works together. Beautiful. Susan, I love this last two from Susan. My flame does not diminish when I give it away. And Mary Teresa, I am here to make a difference. I love you all so much. I'm so grateful to have you here. And this is the power of privilege. Let's close out with our closing blessing. Hands over the heart. God, Spirit, Universe, all that is, all that ever has been, all that ever will be, we thank you. Thank you for letting us learn today. Thank you for lifting our spirits today. Thank you for inspiring us today to remember that we can and we will do better. We love you. We love one another. We are so grateful to be here together at the kingdom. So it is. Ashe, Aho, Salam, Amen, Satnam, Shalom, Om. Thank you. I love you all so much. This is Justin Michael Williams signing out, and I will meet you right here in this special place next Sunday. Bye for now.